If you're playing the game of Football Manager, you're always looking for a chance to try to translate some real-life tactical system into the game. On today's show, we're going to try and translate what Manchester United did against Arsenal in a recent Premier League match. I'm going to keep things relatively simple. I'm going to explain what I saw during the game, translate that into Football Manager, and then talk about certain ways we can try to adapt during matches, because it's important to remember that few managers actually stick to one tactical system for 90 minutes. They will change things like tempo, asking players to press a bit more, drop back a bit. These kind of things actually happen in football games. So if you're going to go into the game thinking this one tactical system is going to be used for 90 minutes, well, maybe you should stop watching the show right now. It's very important to bear this in mind. In 3 months' time, United will probably be playing slightly differently under Erik Ten Hag. Right now, if I were to think of the game between Arsenal and United, the goal here is how do we translate what happened during that game into Football Manager? To do that, we need to break up the play. The first thing I'll do is I'll use a tool like this to explain things. They lined up in a loose 4-2-3-1 on the day, right? We had Malacia, we had Diego Dalot, we had the two central defenders, we had Eriksen playing here. We had Mcdominy playing here. We had Bruno Fernandes. Ignore the fact that he was playing as a, his jersey says number 8. He wasn't playing as a box-to-box. He was largely playing off the front three. We had Marcus Rashford as a striker. We had Sancho on the left. And then we had Anthony, brilliant, on the right. What we're going to do today is we're going to break up some of the roles. We're going to take a look at perhaps some of the transitions during the game. What I noticed about United that was interesting, it's not one of the teams in the league that's actually now playing with another inverted wing back. So Dalot will sometimes shift into this position in the center of midfield, anchor himself over here. We sometimes ended up with a 3. And then sometimes we would see Scott McDominay dropping, Eriksen pushing forward as a roaming playmaker, Tyrell Malacia attacking the flanks. We had Bruno Fernandes basically playing in this area behind the front three. We had Jadon Sancho sometimes dropping in, sometimes going to the flanks, working with Tyrell Malacia on the flanks. In fact, I saw more overlapping runs on the left flank than I did on the right flank. On the right flank, occasionally, we had Dalot maybe making a handful of overlapping runs, but most of the time, Dalot was anchored in this position. We had Anthony driving into the box. We had Anthony going down the line. We had Anthony trying to score. Now, this is important to understand because for me, Anthony played such a big match. He played a big role in the way they were attacking this side of the pitch, and explains also why the roaming playmaker in Eriksen was always in this pocket. I like the way Eriksen is now playing with United. Sometimes if we got Dalot in this position, we got Malacia bombing this way, and Eriksen is in this position playing a lot of progressive passes from deeper on the pitch. So he tries to play passes into the channel here for Anthony to attack. Sometimes, he'll play to Bruno Fernandes, and then you will see a link-up play between Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes as well. So sometimes Marcus Rashford pulls defenders away, and then Bruno Fernandes will play a ball through the gap for Rashford to attack. Sometimes Rashford will drop deep, play in Anthony, which was one of the goals that they scored. And sometimes you will see Tyrell Malacia, doing overlapping runs with Jadon Sancho, pulling defenders away, making space for Eriksen to arrive in this position, so Eriksen can play a deep diagonal into this position. It was fascinating to watch because I saw a lot of attacking movement in this United side, which is reflected by their pass map. Now, this is the United pass map, courtesy of betweenthepost.net. Of course, if you want more detailed explanations, you can always go to the website and sign up. I was very impressed with Eriksen. He was really playing like a roaming playmaker, shifting out to the wider positions, working well with Jadon Sancho. As Malacia would frequently be working alongside on the left-hand side. They would try and unlock passes from these deeper positions from Christian Eriksen. Martinez was interesting because he was pushing forward. He was also looking out for a lot of passes from deep towards Christian Eriksen on the day. Here we've got Marcus Rashford, and then we had Anthony. Anthony was definitely one of the more attacking options on the day. I mean, he was playing largely as an inside forward, with a lot of driving runs down the flank. Diego Dalot, basically, I didn't really see Diego Dalot attack the flanks as much. He was anchored more in midfield, sometimes drifting out to the right. Now, The player that had a solid game for me was Scott Mcdominy. Scott Mcdominy was playing largely as a holding midfielder on the day, protecting the back three and then linking up play with Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, occasionally with Diego Dalot, because I didn't really see Mcdominy linking up a lot with Anthony on the day. So in terms of progressive passing, a lot of those passes were coming from Christian Eriksen. I was very impressed with how he was able to play those passes from deeper areas on the pitch. I didn't typically see Manchester United pressing very high up the pitch. Occasionally they did when there was a loose ball in play, but most of the time, Marcus Rashford would drop off, closing down passing lane options to the center of midfield. So a lot of the times the United team would drop into these kind of positions. They would keep the wider players checked, like there was always somebody on the wider players, but they will always drop into a kind of a loose 4-4-1-1 when they were defending, with Marcus Rashford occasionally dropping as deep as this. So I was pretty impressed with their defensive solidity as well, because United were not playing with a very aggressive defensive line. In terms of Football Manager, we're looking at standard defensive line. In terms of a line of engagement, higher, no way. I mean, maybe to some extent, standard line of engagement, we could play something like that. The thing here is this: when it comes to Football Manager, it's pretty easy to set this system up. Now, when I was looking at the way United were playing, I was initially drawn to the idea of playing with double DMs. Now, I thought maybe we could play them as a double DM pair like this, but when we play a double DM pair like this, this would be one way of getting Eriksen to drop deep, right, to get the ball. Problem when you do this is Dalot is not always going to be in the center. He's going to play more like a wing back. So I wanted Dalot to push into the center, and I wanted the passing maps to be reflected as well in the game, so that we can get, of course, please ignore Fatikanti here. We used my Palermo save during a live stream to show how this might apply. And then we actually, for the fun of it, played this tactical system in the Italian Cup semi-final. So, yeah, I mean, we're underdogs, right? So we had a bit of fun. Right, so how I'd set up United is very straightforward. It's probably loosely like this. We play with an inverted wing back for the Dalot position. Here, this is Varane. You could play him as a central defender, but here with Lisandro Martinez, definitely a ball-playing defender, because he was looking to play those kind of longer passes towards this would be the Christian Eriksen position. And then, of course, the wing back here would be Tyrell Malacia. Bombing down, his attributes and his traits indicate that this is not such a bad move. He does run down the left with the ball, which indicates he does dribble quite a fair bit. And then here, I would play Jadon Sancho as an inverted winger. This will allow us to see a lot of interplay between these two roles to try and unlock this side of the pitch where Anthony is playing. Anthony, I would set him up as an inside forward on attack. Here, with the shadow striker position is what I would set up Bruno Fernandes as. I wouldn't play him as an APA, because most of the passes that were being received were from Mr. Christian Eriksen. If I can stop saying Sven-Göran Eriksson, I'll have achieved something for today. We had Eriksen playing this position. I was really impressed with Scott Mcdominy, which largely explains, why they went out to get Casemiro. Because if it's Casemiro, Mcdominy or Casemiro, which is interesting, because Eriksen does a lot of progressive passes from this position, and it's very, very important to play, because he's now become, at least for the game between United and Arsenal, he played such a big part in that game. It was very impressive. So we've got Eriksen in this position. Bruno Fernandes is a shadow striker instead of an APA. But what we'll do with him, if I were to play him, I'll play him in a roam from position. Now, what about the PIs? Now, I would set the PIs up, and I'll explain the TIs in a short while. So, with the inverted wingback for Manchester United, I'd probably set him up Mark Titer for the inverted wingback. And then for the ball-playing defender and the other ball-playing defender, we would just leave them without any PIs. With this position here, the wingback where Malacia is playing, we'll probably play him as a regular wingback without any PIs. And then here with the DM, we'll play a DM on support. And a roaming playmaker will tell the roaming playmaker here to move into the channels, because I need him to move between players, which is what Christian Eriksen was doing the whole day. Again, I almost said Sven-Göran Eriksson. Anthony as well, we can tell him to tackle harder, mark tighter. And then we've got the shadow striker with roam from position. And of course, we've got the advanced forward without any PIs on him, right? So the advanced forward attacks this way. Now, if you guys are going to ask me for a tactic, download tactic, there won't be a link because I'm just discussing how I would translate it. Now, this is where things are going to get interesting because as far as the block is concerned, you can play with a high line of engagement or a standard line of engagement. A standard line of engagement, they start pressing somewhere around here, which is largely what United were doing on the day, right? They're pressing in the middle third of the pitch. Occasionally, they'll press in the final third, which is why we added the tackle harder on all these players. To kind of encourage the style of football that I saw United play, in terms of the TIs, we're going to keep things relatively simple. You can play with a positive mentality or a balanced mentality. Dribble less, hit early crosses, passing directness is going to match the tempo and the width. So we've got all three on the same setting. Then as far as the approach play is concerned, no player or defense. Because United, you will still occasionally roll it out to the two ball-playing defenders because we've got the instruction here of the goalkeeper. But you won't see them taking their sweet-ass time to build play from the back. You still can get some decent pass possession. Now, what do we do under different kinds of circumstances? Now, if I was playing against a weaker team, maybe I want to push this up a bit more, right? Then I can go prevent short goalkeeper distribution. These four players might try and put a lot of pressure. And what we'll get is the four occasionally during the match against Arsenal, they did try to prevent short goalkeeper distribution. Then in which case, I'll start playing in the offside trap. This can happen in games, but it's up to you to decide when you want to do this. If you choose to, play a bit more of a conservative game, you take this off and you get a bit more of a counter-attacking stance. So while these players are trying to win the ball high up the pitch, you've got these two players and this group of players staying a bit back. You can have it like a mid-block like this, and you get like a standard mid-block. Not too difficult to maintain, but what you'll see happening is these four players applying pressure on the opposition as they bring the ball through midfield. Finally, as far as other options are concerned, now if I was playing against a stronger team, how might I want to change this tactic? I'd probably drop my width a bit more because you have to remember these players are already in pretty solid positions. So I could drop my width to keep possession of the ball a bit more, and then play with a slightly shorter passing directness and slightly higher tempo, still playing largely the same way. And then I could decide, okay, fine, since I'm going to be playing a bit more aggressively, maybe I want to play with a higher block. Now this would put ask my fullbacks to play a bit higher up the pitch, and I will start putting a bit more pressure on higher areas of the pitch. Now, if I was United, I have Varane, Martinez. This is probably what I would do because we'd have Mcdominy in this position, and then we will have this group of players trying to win the second ball. This way, we'll apply pressure on the opposition, and if they can't play the ball from the back, we can attack them almost immediately. It's important to bear in mind that I'm not going to use player or defense because we don't need to go for high possession numbers, right? So we can easily set a tactic up like that. So this is probably how it's set up. Manchester United on Football Manager 23. I hope you enjoyed today's show and you found it interesting. I look forward to your comments. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of this translation and any other tactical systems you might want me to look at. I have received requests on Newcastle, so Newcastle might be the next one. So if you want me to take a look at another tactic, I'll probably do this, build up to a stream. Right, we've been doing it with Palemo, so we just do a loose translation during one of our live streams, and then we'll play the tactic during one of my matches, which is a bit of unnerving since I don't really have the players for this, but it's a lot more fun. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. Have a good one. Take care of each other. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.